Let's bring in our guests. Joining me in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, body language expert, trial expert witness, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman, you know, everyone who's watching tonight, all these parents are like, well, how could that even happen? Like, what goes on in our lives that could take us to the place where we would think it's better, that the revenge factor is like higher than the instinct that we have to protect? It's unreal.
Yes, it really does. It's very hard for juries to wrap their heads around this too. And, you know, of course there are, you know, cases where there really psychiatric issues do intervene and are, you know, take over. With Chad Dorman, you know, the video of him being arrested really speaks against his being psychotic, you know, being able to have a not guilty by reason of insanity defense, because, you know, clearly he does not seem like he doesn't know what right from wrong, or, you know, isn't able to make that decision, is impulsive. I mean, he was sitting there. In fact, it speaks to how defiant he was. You know, they're yelling at him to get up and all that, and he's just sitting there. And so he was so determined in his beliefs that he did the right thing, or, you know, for him did the right thing. And of course, one of the really sad things about that case is that one of the warning signs of, really, these are family annihilators. For men, it's most often family annihilators. And one of the warning signs is a man who is perpetrates domestic violence. So it's really sad that neither his wife nor the neighbors or anybody, you know, reached out for help.
Dr. Lieberman, what are your thoughts about warning signs and for people to have their eyes open that, hey, we've got a parent who is capable of this?
Yes, of course, that's the answer, you know, to try to prevent these things. Mothers don't reach out for help oftentimes because they don't want to be seen as a bad mother. You know, they're afraid to tell their symptoms. They're afraid to tell some of their thoughts that they have about hurting their children, or, you know, whichever kind of category they fit into. They don't want to admit it. They don't want people to think that they're bad mothers. They don't want them to take their children away, although, you know, of course, then they do what they do to the children. And with fathers, also, you know, they aren't going to tell people. But, you know, as I was mentioning earlier, of course, domestic violence is one side. For mothers, really, there needs to be more attention when mothers give birth to their history, their psychiatric history. And before you send the mother home with the baby, you know, you need to ask a lot of these questions because a lot of the mothers who have postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis, that is really, there's an underlying psychiatric disorder. And then the giving birth, pregnancy and giving birth brings it out. So if you determine these things before you send the mother home, you know, that would go far in trying to prevent some of these cases.
All right. Yeah, Dr. Lieberman, do you think that the system is fair in this respect?
Well, of course, mothers do have one advantage in the sense that the hormones during pregnancy do play a big role, and I think that that's easy for, or easier even, for juries to understand than thinking about all these other things. You know, how could a mother or father kill their kids? But, you know, there is something happening that's making it somehow easier, in a sense, for parents to kill their kids. Because look at the case, you're going to be discussing it in the next hour, Alex Treviso, this young teenager who allegedly killed her baby after it was born, and pretended that she wasn't pregnant, but meanwhile she had a name. She had given the baby a name. Her friends, you know, told on her, and the courts let her go. I mean, it's one thing to let her go back to class to graduate, but they let her go. She went to prom, and there she was, smiling with her boyfriend, the father of the baby. and at prom. I mean, what message does that give to everybody, especially to her kids? You know, that life isn't really all that important. So I think there's something that needs to be done in terms of how we regard these things. You know, not just what happens in the justice system, but how these things are portrayed in the media. Certainly you do a very good job of that, Vinny, but not everybody does. And, you know, to have that coldness to think that this is okay.
Great. Thanks so much tonight. I know all of you, your time is so valuable. Dr. Carole Lieberman.